You don't realize it when you're young, but as the years pass, you start to see people differently. You start to see them for who they really are, not just who they pretend to be when they need something from you. Age does that to you. It strips away the illusions, the false smiles, and the sweet words. It shows you the truth. And one of the hardest truths to accept is that some people, yes, even family, are no good for you in old age. You may love them. You may have spent decades with them. But that doesn't mean they are good for your peace, your health, or your happiness. If anything, some people can become a burden, a source of endless stress, or even a threat to your well-being. And in your later years, when your time is more precious than ever, you don't have the luxury of keeping the wrong people around. You see, when you're young, you put up with a lot. You let things slide. You forgive and forget, thinking there's always time to fix things. But in old age, you realize time isn't something you can afford to waste. The company you keep, the energy you surround yourself with, that matters more than ever. So, who are these people you must avoid? That's what we're going to talk about. And I want you to listen carefully. Not just with your ears, but with your heart. Because if you recognize any of these people in your life, you need to make a decision. A hard one, but a necessary one. Before we start, let me be clear about something. This isn't about holding grudges. It's not about being bitter. It's about protecting yourself, protecting your peace. Because if you don't, nobody else will. Now, let's begin. The first kind of person you must avoid in old age is the one who only remembers you when they need something. I want you to think about this. How many times have you heard from someone, not because they missed you, not because they cared, but because they needed a favor, a loan, a place to stay, a shoulder to cry on? And once they got what they wanted, they disappeared. You didn't hear from them again until the next time they needed something. These people are takers, and takers don't change. They drain you. They come to you with their problems, their excuses, their emergencies, but they are never there for you when you need them. And in old age, this kind of person is dangerous. Why? Because you are more vulnerable. You have less energy. You don't have the same strength to deal with users and manipulators. And if you let them stay in your life, they will take advantage of you over and over again. They will take your money, your time, your kindness, until there's nothing left. And here's the worst part. Sometimes these people are family. A son, a daughter, a sibling. Someone you've loved all your life. That makes it even harder to walk away. But listen to me. Love should never come at the cost of your peace. If someone only values you for what you can do for them, that is not love. That is not respect. So, what do? You set boundaries. You say no. You make it clear that you are not an open wallet, an emotional dumping ground, or a backup plan for their bad decisions. And if they don't respect that, you walk away. You don't owe anyone endless sacrifices, especially not in the years when you should be enjoying peace and dignity. Now, the second type of person you need to avoid is the one who brings only negativity into your life. Let me tell you something. Your mind is like a garden. Whatever you allow to be planted there will grow. If you surround yourself with bitterness, complaints, and anger, that's what will take root in your life. And there are people out there who thrive on negativity. They always have something bad to say. Nothing is ever good enough for them. They complain about the past, the present, and the future. And worst of all, they want company in their misery. Have you ever been around someone like this? Someone who, no matter what, finds a way to be unhappy. Maybe it's a friend you've known for decades. Maybe it's even a close relative. They call you just to vent, just to dump their frustration on you. And when you hang up the phone, you feel exhausted, drained, as if their darkness has crept into your own heart. You cannot afford this in old age. Life is too short. You have to be protective of your peace, your joy. Every moment should be spent with people who uplift you, who make you laugh, who remind you of the good in the world. But negativity is sneaky. Sometimes you don't even realize how much it's affecting you until it's too late. Until you start feeling just as drained, just as bitter, just as hopeless as they are. And that's why you have to be mindful. If someone constantly brings negativity into your life, you need to create distance. That doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop letting their darkness take over your light. Now, I know what you might be thinking. But what if it's my own family? That's the hard part, isn't it? It's easy to walk away from a stranger who's negative. It's much harder when it's your own blood. But the truth remains the same. Just because someone is family doesn't mean they have a right to poison your peace. And let me tell you something I've learned. The people who truly love you will respect your boundaries. The ones who get angry when you set limits. Those are the ones who are never planning to respect you in the first place. So, my advice is simple. Protect your peace. If someone's presence in your life feels like a burden, if they leave you feeling drained rather than uplifted, it's okay to step back. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to feel guilty. You just have to do what's best for you. Because at the end of the day, you only have so much time left. And the last thing you want is to waste it on people who don't deserve it. That's the first part of what we're going to talk about. We've covered 2 types of people you must avoid in old age. The users and the negative ones. But we're not done yet. There are still 3 more. And trust me, the next ones are just as important. So, before we move forward, take a moment to think. Do you have these people in your life? Are there signs you've been ignoring? Maybe it's time to start making changes. There's something you realize as you get older. Peace is worth more than gold. You stop caring about impressing people. You stop chasing approval. And you start valuing the simple things. A quiet morning, a good meal, a warm conversation. Those things matter. And the older you get, the more you understand that not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Some people come into your life and bring love, warmth, and laughter. Others? They bring chaos. They bring stress. And if you're not careful, they will steal the peace you work so hard to have. We've already talked about the users and the negative ones. But there's another kind of person you must avoid in old age. The one who never respects your boundaries. Think about it. How many times have you made it clear that you don't want to be involved in something, yet someone keeps dragging you into it? How many times have you said no, only for them to keep pushing until you give in? How often do you find yourself doing things you don't want to do, just to avoid an argument or guilt? This is what happens when you let people ignore your boundaries. And let me tell you something. When someone doesn't respect your limits, they don't respect you. Maybe it's a relative who keeps trying to control you. Maybe it's a friend who makes you feel guilty for not doing things their way. Maybe it's someone who calls at all hours, shows up uninvited, or expects you to drop everything for them. Whatever it is, you need to understand this. It is not your job to make everyone happy. That is a lesson most people don't learn until later in life. When you're young, you spend so much time trying to be a good person, a reliable friend, a supportive family member. And while there's nothing wrong with that, it becomes a problem when people start taking advantage of it. But in old age, your time is limited. Your energy is sacred. You don't have to entertain people who drain you. You don't have to say yes when you mean no. And if someone can't respect that, they don't deserve a place in your life. So what do you do about it? You make it clear where you stand. If someone doesn't listen, you distance yourself. It's not your responsibility to keep explaining yourself to someone who refuses to hear you. If they love you, they'll respect your wishes. If they don't, they were only ever thinking about themselves. And that brings us to the fourth type of person you must avoid. The one who always makes you feel small. This is a hard one, because sometimes these people are the ones we've known the longest. A childhood friend, a sibling, even a spouse. There are people in this world who cannot stand to see others happy, who cannot stand to see others at peace. They belittle you, dismiss your feelings, and always make you feel like you're not enough, not smart enough, not successful enough, not important enough. And the worst part? They do it subtly. It's not always outright insults. Sometimes it's the way they downplay your achievements, the way they laugh at your dreams, the way they roll their eyes when you talk about something that excites you. Sometimes it's the small comments. Oh, you wouldn't understand. You're too old for that. What's the point at your age? Do you know what happens when you keep people like this in your life? You start believing them. You start shrinking. Yourself. You stop doing things that make you happy because you're afraid of judgment. You stop expressing yourself because you think your voice doesn't matter. Let me tell you something. Your life is yours. Your happiness is yours. And anyone who tries to make you feel small does not belong in it. And I don't care if it's someone you've known for 50 years. If they cannot support you, if they do not bring you joy, if all they do is criticize and belittle you, you are better off without them. Now, I know this isn't easy. Walking away from people, especially those we've known for a long time, is painful. It's uncomfortable. But let me ask you this. Is keeping them in your life really worth the cost of your happiness? Because that's the price you pay. When you allow toxic people to stay in your world, you sacrifice your own peace. And you don't have time for that. Not anymore. Life is too short to spend it proving yourself to people who will never appreciate you. It's too short to keep quiet just to keep the peace. If someone makes you feel like you are less than you are, if they bring nothing but criticism, you don't need them. Period. And the moment you remove people like that from your life, you'll feel lighter, freer, happier. Now let's take a moment to reflect. We've talked about 4 types of people so far. The users, the negative ones, the boundary breakers, and the ones who make you feel small. Do you recognize any of them in your life? Have you been making excuses for them? Have you been tolerating things you shouldn't? Because here's the truth. Nothing will change unless you decide to change it. There's something about getting older that changes the way you see people. You start to notice things you once ignored. You start to understand which relationships nourish your soul and which ones drain it. You learn to value your own peace, your own happiness, your own time. And one of the hardest lessons of all, realizing that sometimes the most dangerous person in your life is the one who refuses to let go of the past. You see, there are people out there who cannot move forward. They are stuck in old wounds, old grudges, old resentments. And the older they get, the more they cling to their bitterness, like it's the only thing keeping them alive. Maybe you know someone like this. Maybe it's a family member who never forgave an old mistake. Maybe it's an old friend who still brings up past conflicts, no matter how many years have passed. Maybe it's someone who constantly reminds you of your regrets, your failures, your moments of weakness. These people are trapped in time. And if you're not careful, they will trap you with them. Think about it. How much time have you spent listening to someone go on and on about the past? How many times have you had the same conversations, the same arguments, the same painful memories dragged back up as if they just happened yesterday? These people live in a world of should have, could have, and what if. And if you let them, they will pull you into that world too. They will make you second-guess yourself, regret things you can't change, and dwell on moments that should have been left behind long ago. But here's the truth. Life moves forward, whether we like it or not. You cannot change what happened. You cannot go back and undo your mistakes, and neither can they. The past is done. The only thing that matters now is the present, the life you have left, the time you still have to enjoy. But people who refuse to let go of the past, they will never let you enjoy the present, and that is dangerous. Because as you grow older, your time becomes even more precious. Every single day is a gift. Every single moment is an opportunity to love, to laugh, to experience joy. But you cannot do that if you're constantly being dragged back into old pain, old mistakes, and old disappointments. And let me tell you something. If someone refuses to heal, if someone refuses to grow, if someone refuses to let go of what's behind them, they do not deserve to take up space in your future. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter how long you've known them. If someone constantly pulls you back into negativity, into guilt, into regret, you have every right to walk away. And that's the part most people struggle with, isn't it? The walking away, the letting go, because it's not easy. Sometimes, the people who hold us back the most are the ones we feel most connected to. A childhood friend, a sibling, even a parent. But let me ask you this. What is more important, the guilt of walking away, or the peace of finally being free? Because make no mistake, if you want peace in your later years, you must learn to let go of anything and anyone that keeps you stuck in pain. And that includes people who refuse to heal. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, but what if they are family? What if they are someone I love? Let me tell you something I've learned. You can love someone from a distance. You can care about someone without letting them destroy your peace. You can wish them well without letting their presence drain the life out of you. Love is not about allowing people to hurt you just because they are close to you. And you need to remember that. If someone refuses to heal, if someone refuses to grow, that is their burden to carry, not yours. Your job is to live, to enjoy the time you have left, to fill your days with joy, with peace, with love. And you cannot do that if you are constantly being weighed down by someone else's bitterness. So, what do? You create distance. You stop engaging in the same old conversations. You stop trying to fix things that cannot be fixed. You stop allowing yourself to be dragged into guilt, into regret, into anger that no longer belongs to you. And when they come to you, with their complaints, their grudges, their resentment, you simply refuse to participate. You smile, you nod, and you change the subject. You stop feeding their bitterness. And if they refuse to respect that, if they continue to pull you back into the past, you walk away. Because the truth is, not everyone is meant to go with you into the next chapter of your life. And the older you get, the more important it is to be selective about who you allow in your space. So let's take a moment to reflect. We've talked about 5 types of people you must avoid in old age. The users, the negative ones, the boundary breakers, the ones who make you feel small, and the ones who refuse to let go of the past. Do you recognize any of these people in your life? Have you been holding on to relationships that no longer serve you? So, take a deep breath. Think about everything we've talked about. You know who you need to avoid. You know why. And now, you know what to do with the space they leave behind. The rest is up to you. Live for yourself, choose your peace, and make the most of the time you have left. In the end, life is about choices, the people you keep around, the energy you allow into your space, and the way you choose to spend your time. These things determine the quality of your final years. Too many people waste their later years trying to please the wrong people, holding onto relationships that only bring stress and allowing guilt to keep them trapped in places they no longer belong. But the truth is, you don't owe anyone your peace. You don't owe anyone your happiness. If someone takes more than they give, if they bring negativity into your life, if they make you feel small or hold you back in any way, you have every right to walk away. And you don't need permission to do so, because this time, right now, is yours. It is a privilege to grow old, and with that privilege comes the responsibility to protect your own joy. If you spend your remaining years catering to the wrong people, you'll look back with regret. But if you choose to surround yourself with love, with kindness, with people who truly value you, then you will find peace. And that's what truly matters. Not obligations, not old ties that no longer serve you, but peace, happiness, and a life that feels truly your own. So make the choice, not just to remove the wrong people, but to embrace the right ones, and to live fully in the time you have left.